Welcome. Can you guys hear me in the back? Online? I guess you can't answer really anyway, so that's okay. So, welcome. My name is Heather, Heather McMullen. I'm going to be one of your instructors when you come to the program, because you'll love it so much after listening to us tonight that you'll definitely come. So we'll get to know each other a lot more later, but for tonight, I'm your MC. I'll introduce the other folks that are around. So we have a bit of a plan today, and our plan is Andre's going to give you a overview of the program. Andre, give us a stand up there. A stand up. There we go. Thanks. And Donna, also part of the program. You'll see lots and lots of all of us. So we'll try to give you as much information as we can tonight. We also have with us our Associate Dean, Lisa. Thank you. So that's sort of program folks that are here. And then we have a bunch of other people. We have some people from program advising, Jesse. And we have a recent-ish graduate, former student, Cedric. So you're going to hear from all of us. So don't leave until you've heard from all of these people. We'll actually close the door and lock it and make sure that's not possible. So, before we tell you a little bit more about the program, since I have the mic, I'd like to tell you about myself. A little bit. I'll be quick. So, I was in high school. I was thinking, I don't know, professional athlete? Maybe. But, you know, the market for handball and ringette, not so good. They're real things, look them up. And then I was thinking, since that's not probably going to work out, professional musician, but I don't know how to play an instrument. So that wasn't going to work out either. So I just flipped through the calendar, and I landed on MedLab Science. This is a true story. I'm like, oh, okay, we'll give that a go. And I was about a year into the 4-year program, and I'm thinking, it's still all right, but who cares? Not really that jazzed about it. Sure, there's a little bit of chemistry, a little bit of biology. You can get that anywhere. But then, I'm in a lab, and this guy wheels down a cart full of buckets full of livers, hearts, and brains, bones, you name it. Then finally I'm like, okay, I'm glad I stayed, because this is where I belong. And then, you know, it's been all death and destruction like that since then. I got bored about twice, and one of those bouts of boredom brought me here to teach in the program, and here we are. So I hope that you have as good of an experience as I have the last couple of decades. And that really is all I have to say. Andre, I think it's your turn.
Hello, everyone. Thanks, Heather. So I'm going to go over a little bit about the MLT profession, what to expect here at BCIT, and a little bit more, I guess, just opportunities within this program and what you're going to do afterwards. Okay. So the first thing I want to actually talk about is who are we, what do we do, that kind of thing. So if you haven't already investigated, we are a very integral part of the hospital. You can see that we use a variety of complex instruments, high-tech equipment, and really the goal is to analyze different tissue specimens, like Heather just described, brains and all sorts of stuff, blood, body fluids, and the idea is that we want to produce a result or analyze these specimens in order to provide that information to a physician. All right, and then the goal then is for that physician to take that information and make appropriate diagnosis, and if needed, make or take the appropriate treatment plans. So that's kind of what we do in general. So you can see that it is a very important part of the hospital process. So again, really, you've got a specimen, you've collected it, it comes to the lab, we'll prepare it, get it ready for analysis. Once it's run, we then review and report those results. All right, so that's kind of the flow of our job and where we fit in. You can see here with this statistic, 85% of all the decisions made for either diagnosis or determining treatment plans are really based on lab results. Okay, so again, this kind of summarizes why it is, why our profession is very important within that healthcare stream. All right, so a little bit about where you'll be working when you complete the program. So the primary places you're going to be working is the hospitals and the private labs here in BC. There's a number, like Heather mentioned, there's a number of people here from industry that you can have a chance to talk to tonight. So they'll be here after the presentation. So you'll have a chance to talk to them at Town Square A and B. So yeah, so we've got those folks here that you can have a chat with. Other opportunities, you can work in research labs. Some people have gone on to work in biotechnology companies, that kind of thing. So I do know of a few people that have gone to work for companies such as Siemens, Roche, et cetera. And again, the main reason is we are always working with this complex instruments. So we're sometimes the best people to recruit for those jobs. So that is an opportunity for some lab techs. Just to kind of go back to this for half a second, the other thing I want to mention is within these areas of work that I'm describing, there is opportunities to build on your career when you're there. So some folks have gone into management, administration. You can go into research. So some folks have gone that route. You can also build on it in terms of working at an educational institute, such as BCIT. A number of people have also gone on to take more education and have gone into physician roles, that kind of thing. So there is opportunities to build on this career, so if you choose to take it. Career outlook. So right now, the demand is very good. So all of our graduates at this point are graduating and getting jobs, so that's good. One of the statistics that I can give you is basically for every grad we have, there's 2 to 3 jobs for them. So that's good. That's good news. So employment is very, very high right now for those folks. Again, just to kind of go over a few of these things, again, you'll get a professional level salary. You will have a chance to work anywhere in Canada, and the main thing behind that is you're trained here at BCIT. Once you've completed, you'll challenge a national exam. The Canadian Society for Medlab Science, they have a national exam that you'll challenge. Once you've passed that, you're then registered as a lab tech, and then you can basically work anywhere in Canada, which is great. Something that is interesting is you'll continue to always learn new stuff. So as you probably already know, technology is always changing. The methodologies for certain tests are always changing. So again, you're going to have that opportunity within your career to always be learning something new and sort of fulfill that part if you're looking for that. And like I mentioned earlier, you're part of an important decision-making process, right? So you're working with physicians sometimes, you're reviewing results. You definitely get a chance to make a difference for patients. So that is a really good positive thing. So just to kind of go over a few of the major areas or departments that you can see yourself working in once you've graduated from the program. So there's clinical chemistry, histology, molecular diagnostics, transfusion science, microbiology, and hematology. So those are sort of the main areas that you might find yourself working in when you're done. And there are sort of the main core courses that you would train and study here at BCIT. So I'm just going to go through a few of them, not all of them, but just a few of them just to kind of go over some examples. So when we look at clinical chemistry, So again, in that particular department, we'd be looking at blood, body fluids, and we're really detecting different types of chemicals, hormones, drugs, that kind of thing. So an example that you're probably familiar with, one of the most common tests we test for is blood glucose, right, or your blood sugars, right? So really what we're doing is we're looking, we're trying to diagnose and or monitor patients with diabetes. So that's a pretty common thing that some of you might have heard of. In histology, again, they're looking at preparing and studying different types of tissues. So as Heather alluded to in her introduction, you're looking at different types of specimens, and you're preparing them for analysis by the pathologist. And then with molecular diagnostics, we're looking at genetic material, gene expression in different patients and how that relates to different diseases. Transfusion science, we're looking at different blood types, and we're looking also for testing and donor compatibility. So something you might relate to or understand, for example, if you were in a car accident for any particular reason and you had to go to the emergency room and you're bleeding everywhere, you're losing blood, so those folks in that lab would then have to find you blood products or something to help. So that's what they would be doing, is they'd be trying to do a cross-match, which is a test. They would do a cross-match and then try and find a particular blood product for you in the emergency room. So that would be your job, is finding that blood for that person. Microbiology, we're looking at very simple bacteria, viruses, fungi. So there's a lot out there. So that department is looking for all sorts of different bugs. Hematology, they're going to be studying blood cells and different clotting mechanisms in the blood. So again, that's its own separate department, and they're using other high-tech equipment and microscopes to look at those specimens. So yeah, that kind of gives you a little bit of an overview and some particular examples of each of the departments, but trust me, there is a lot in each of these. So this is just a little overview. So how do you know if this is for you? Well, some things to consider is, are you curious? Do you want to know why things are, how they work, that kind of thing, that sort of scientific process? We're definitely a good place to be. Are you fascinated by science? How the body works, how it functions, all those kind of things. So again, this program will go into physiology, anatomy, and all the different tests that we could do to, like I said, help with diagnosis or treatment. Process it. Are you process oriented? So this job, again, typically it revolves around a lot of procedural work. So you can imagine you're in a lab. You want to make sure that each patient is treated the same way, right? So if you've got 50 patients, you want to make sure that they're all getting their blood sugars tested the same way. You know, that way that a physician will know that that result is accurate, precise, and all those kind of things, right? So we will be following, you will find yourself following procedures, standardized procedures in the lab. Accurate, self-sufficient, okay, so those are very important as well. So keep in mind there are going to be days where you might be working by yourself, you might be working night shift, that kind of thing. So there will be times when you'll have to make decisions on your own, all that kind of thing. So are you self-sufficient, reliable, and all those kind of things, right? Yeah, so some other qualities that we've observed. So I just kind of threw these in there so you can get another sense of what we're looking for. So keen observational skills, good color perception. So like I mentioned, in some courses, you're going to be looking down a microscope at different slides or different specimens, blood or tissues, anything like that. So they will be stained with a certain dye. So you're going to want to be able to sort of identify the different components and those different colors. Manual dexterity, again, you're going to be working lots of equipment, pipetting, small volumes, everything like that. So some good manual dexterity will benefit you with this program or for this program. Work under pressure and working as a team. So like I mentioned, imagine yourself in a motor vehicle accident situation. You're the lab tech, you're working. You can imagine that there's going to be some pressure. So you're going to have to be able to sort of manage that, work through it. But again, what I want you to be aware of is our program teaches you, obviously, how to manage that stress, how to work through those procedures, and so it's not all on you, is what I'm trying to say. All right, so that's a little bit about lab life, if it's for you. When we get into, I just want to check my time here, okay. Why BCIT Med Lab? Okay, well, one thing that I can mention is that when you are done, you will be job ready, for sure. So we have a pretty intense program. There's lots of learning outcomes and opportunities in the lab for you to build those skills. You work really intensely with your clinical trainers, and when you're done, you're pretty much ready to hit the ground running working. So it's a pretty good program in that sense that you will be ready to start your career pretty quickly. It's a cohort model, so what we found from our students is that they really enjoy, so we take, just to preface this, we take 80 students and then we break that up into 4 sets of 20. So you will work with a small cohort through the entire program, so you really get to build some good relationships and friends along the way. So that's kind of a nice thing about that cohort model. And again, just to kind of promote ourselves a bit, we're CMA accredited, so we're a Canadian medically associated accreditation, so we're a good program. We're nationally certified, you'll get nationally certified, and we definitely have a lot of supporting instructors here in the program who are really working with the students on an individual basis at times, but also BCIT also offers a lot of services for students if they need it, tutoring, mentoring, all those kind of things. So it is a good place to learn, for sure. So I'm going to just kind of go through this quickly here. So with the program map, so this is kind of what you'll expect at your time here at BCIT. So from level 1 is January to May, June, and those are where you're going to be learning some of your foundational courses. And then following level 1, there's a little bit of a clinical stint that you'll do, and I'll let our clinical coordinator talk a little bit about that. But really, you're going to do level 1, do a little clinical placement, so for about 2 weeks. And then you come back in September for levels 2, and then again in January for level 3. And that's where you're going to really learn sort of a bulk of the sort of med lab specific courses. So like I just mentioned, the chemistry, hematology, micro. So those particular courses is what you're going to learn in level 2 and 3. And then once you've learned all these skills at BCIT and practiced everything, we send you off to clinical. All right, so that's where you're going to do your clinical placement for 4 and 5, and that's I can't remember I think it's 42, 38, so many weeks. But basically, at that time, you're going to be applying all of those skills that you learned here at BCIT, all the theory, knowledge, etc. You're going to be working with trainers and building on those skills even more, right? And you're going to rotate through the different departments then. So that's a little bit about the program map and what you're going to expect when you're here at BCIT. And I should mention as well, it's a 2.5-year program. So if you're not aware of that, it's 2.5 years. So this whole thing, a year and a half here at BCIT, and then roughly a year in clinical. Oh, all right. So I'm just going to hand it over to Donna just to kind of quickly go over the clinical placement. She's our clinical coordinator. Donna.
Thank you, Andre, and thanks everybody for coming. Heather alluded a little bit to her journey, which started after high school, and she discovered MedLab at that point. But many of our students come to us with a little bit of post-secondary, usually in the science domains. And many of us come with a full undergrad degree. And not unlike myself, you do your 4 years at university and you have your BSc, and then you go, now what? No jobs. You aren't really trained for anything specific. BCIT is different than that. And Andre alluded to our clinical component. You will learn a lot of skills here at BCIT to prepare you for your clinical component. And your clinical component is when you get down in the trenches and you're actually doing the work that you're trained to do, okay? So you will learn clinical chemistry here, microbiology, histology, hematology, molecular, as Andre already mentioned, and those skills will get honed in your clinical. At the end of level 1, we give you a taste, and the first taste is a 2-week clinical placement that is phlebotomy based. What's phlebotomy, you might ask? It's blood collection. And the wonderful thing about this is you will come out of that 2-week clinical placement after being well trained here at BCIT, I might add. We're not just going to throw you out there and put a needle in your hand and have you poking individuals without some very high level skill development here at BCIT, which will be headed by our lovely Heather McMullen. But after that 2 weeks, you will find that you really have had an opportunity to experience what your career is like. There's a reason we do that. If you feel at the end of that 2 weeks that it's not well suited to you, you have the opportunity to change direction early. Most of our students come back from that clinical placement. Actually, I would say all of them. I have never seen anybody drop out from that clinical placement or after that clinical placement. They come back really excited after that clinical placement because you are there, you're out there, you're working, you're in the action, and it's a different environment than you will be exposed to here at BCIT. So your full clinical placement, as Andre had discussed, is 40 weeks. So the first 2 weeks happen after level 1. The second component is the full 38 weeks back to back after your level 3 didactic. So your level 3 didactic is all of the theory-based learning here at BCIT, and we prepare you in the labs for that last clinical placement where you will be working alongside a clinical trainer and doing everything you will be doing in your career. Again, one of the wonderful things about BCIT is that you are job ready when you graduate. And as Andre already has said, our profession right now, the job market is excellent for anybody entering this career. So I feel it's a really good choice, and you're all here instead of home eating dinner, so you're already committed and motivated, which is just the kind of students that we're looking for. And on that note, I'm going to hand it back over to Andre. Thank you.
Thanks, Donna. All right, so I just got to sort of let you know too, there are a few risks involved when you're here at BCIT, but don't worry, we'll take care of you and we'll make sure that you learn all the appropriate ways to mitigate that risk and protect yourself when you're here. I'm just going to go over this a little bit here. I want to kind of go quickly over, just because I'm looking at the time here, I just want to go over the process for application or how to apply and sort of what to expect in that process. So we have three steps. First step is meeting the entry requirements. Okay, so once you've applied online, okay, and you've met all of the entrance requirements, we'll then consider your application. And then what we'll do then in step 2 is we'll invite you to a interview process. Okay, so we call them multiple mini interviews. And the whole concept is based around the idea of identifying those that would work well within the program, those that will be successful in their careers. Is this job for you? Is this right for all those kind of all the right reasons? And then based on your score or the way you perform in that multiple mini interview, you'll then get selected into the program. Okay, so selection into the program is really based on meeting number 1, step 1, and then obviously how you do on the interviews. Okay, so we are a very competitive program. We do have lots of people applying. I think our average is 160 students, so we do have a lot of people applying. We take in 80, so that's a pretty high number in terms of programs here at BCIT, so that's good. Step 3, so once you've been accepted, you'll be conditionally accepted in the program, and then we go through a few steps like looking at your criminal records check, immunization review, that kind of thing. All right, and then we start in January. So that's kind of how the process works. So in June, that's your deadline to get your applications in. Then we're going to do interviews throughout the month of June, and then we'll let you know right away if you've made it onto the list, all right, into the program. All right, so that's the application process. All right, so that's kind of what I have to say for this evening. I have a link here to a video that WorkBC has put together for our profession, so our MLT profession. It kind of summarizes a little bit of what we talked about today, but it also, I think, provides a visual for what you're going to see in the lab. So yes, we can talk about chemistry, hematology, all those kind of things, but to actually see it, I think, is important because you'll get sort of an idea of what environment that you're going to be working in. All right, so I will, hopefully everything works. Get her going.
Our next career plays a vital role in the field of medical science. We're in the lab today to meet a medical lab technologist. Hi.
Hi, I'm Jody.
I'm Brian.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Let's get a lab coat on and get you started.
Great.
My name is Jody Simmons. I'm a medical laboratory technologist, and we're at the Dawson Creek and District Hospital lab. Medical laboratory technologist works in the lab. They run patient samples, blood and body fluids. They're tests that are ordered by a doctor, and we run them on instruments, and we make sure that those results are accurate and precise before we release them to the doctors. A typical day would involve coming in and waking up all our instruments, and then we would have to pull quality control material to make sure that our instruments are running correctly. We would be doing any maintenance, like pulling apart the instrument and cleaning it before we would want to run any patient samples.
What is this machine?
We're looking at the inside of a chemistry analyzer. So when someone, for example, comes in the hospital with a heart attack or a suspected heart attack, this is actually one of the instruments we use to see if there's been damage. So you're always learning about new instruments. Your day is always different. Your day is never the same. You might be learning a new instrument, a new technology. In a small lab like this, we are required to draw blood sometimes, so we'll draw the blood and bring it back to the lab. We're looking at tubes, and I'm going to tell what this person's blood type is by using my reagents and these tubes. So if you're an A pos patient, or if your blood type is O, I'll be able to tell from these tests.
Okay.
You're putting drops in tubes, and you're using pipettes and small equipment, and you're doing maintenance, so it's good to be able to work with your hands. It's good to be very organized, so you can organize your workflow and compartmentalize because you have priority specimens as well. You might get pulled from one thing and there's a stat that comes in and it's a lot more, has priority over a routine sample, and you need to stop what you're doing and work on that stat specimen from the emergency, for example. Always double check your work,
Sure.
so you do not want to make a mistake. This person's bleeding in the merge and they need blood quickly. You need to work quickly but accurately as well. I don't think people realize how closely we work with other healthcare professionals. We work with nurses and doctors quite a bit. So the centrifuge is slowing down. It has spun the two samples together. So basically my patient's cells have just been spun. But if you look here, this is my tube. That there is a blood clot. That's a agglutination of the patient's cells.
So because the blood clumped together within this solution, you know that this is what type of blood?
This is an A person.
Okay.
Because I put A reagent in and the blood clumped, we have an A person. We work shift work, so we have day shifts. Our day shifts start at 7:30 to 4, and then we have a person coming in at 2:30 till 11 o'clock at night, and they're our evening shift, so they're on call all night until the next morning. I was interested in chemistry and biology in high school, and then I went on to get a university degree in biochemistry. There is a degree you can get for medical laboratory technologists, but I have a certification and it's a diploma, so it's a 2.5-year program. The advantage of having a degree over the diploma is you do get paid extra, and you can also take a management position a little easier than that. But the diploma, everybody is certified. You take a certification exam, and everybody is considered certified, and you can work anywhere in Canada. There's always opportunities to further advance your education. You could specialize in another department like microbiology. Also, the CSMLS, which is our certifying body, offers courses online that you can take and further advance. My advice for somebody straight out of school would be to go and do a lab tour, talk to somebody that works in a lab. A good medical laboratory technologist pays attention to detail. They're considerate to others. They really do care about the well-being of people, even though you're not in the forefront and people don't always see you. It's nice to know that you're having an impact on somebody's life.
Jody, thank you so much for showing me around.
Nice meeting you. Don't forget to wash your hands.
You got it. Thanks.
Bye.
Once again, I'm Brian for Career Track, reminding you that this career could be yours. See you next time.
Okay, so often when I see stuff about the lab that non-lab people have produced, it's usually wrong. Like CSI is all wrong. Every hospital show is all totally wrong, but that is bang on. Even our clinical folks are agreeing. They're like, yeah, we dig it, we like it. So, if that's you, excellent. How do I get this to move now? Like that. Okay. So I actually don't know if that student, if that person went to school here, maybe before my time, or elsewhere. That doesn't matter. But there is a few people in the audience who went to school here, and one of them was going to come talk to you. Come on down, Cedric. Woo! All right, so Cedric graduated a couple years ago.
Actually, I took my exam in June.
He's a super curious guy. Let him talk to you.
Okay, so yeah, hi everybody. My name is Cedric, and yeah, I'm a technologist. Like I said, I actually took my exam in June, and so one of the things that people like to ask is, what are your prospects for jobs? And I just want to address this right now. My exam was in mid-June, and literally the next day they're saying, can you come to work? It was that fast. Your clinical is basically a big job interview. So if they like you, they will want you, you go. So a little bit just quickly about myself, just to put this in context. I did do a university degree. I did do 2 years of research in psychology, and then I decided this wasn't interesting for me. I'd like something more applied. And so I went, looked around. BCIT was interesting to me, and I wanted to do something applied in medical, and here I am. So yeah, the video is actually kind of cool because it's actually accurate. If you ever want humor, do not ever watch an episode of CSI or House or ER. Because you will look at it and just start screaming at the screen going, oh my goodness, this is totally not what we do. But they're not kidding by saying that every day is different. I do blood bank, transfusion medicine. I also am a hematologist, or hematology is what I do. And my day can literally go from, I'm dealing with a trauma on Monday, I might be looking at person who might have leukemia the next day. And then I'll go to bed and wake up the next morning, and maybe I'm dealing with another trauma. That's what we do. Your days are totally varied. You really don't know what each day is going to bring. And it's totally gratifying to see what you do and how you've made a difference. The only bad thing, of course, is that when you say you work at a hospital, they will first think that you're a doctor, then think you're a nurse, and then literally have no idea what you do. I have had that happen to me so many times. Show up in scrubs, they ask the first two, and they're like, are you the janitor? I'm like, no, I'm not the janitor. So, I wish that was a joke. No, but, but all in all, no, it's, if you're curious, if you love detail, if you like discovery, this is a program that can work for you. The biggest discoveries that you'll make are when I might be looking down a microscope and I'll just say, that's funny. I might need the pathologist to take a look at this. And sometimes you are literally helping someone say, I think this guy might have a leukemia, or you might just say, I think he totally doesn't. So, I've only been a tech for a few months. I've got a long history, a long time ahead of me, I hope to see some of you out in the field. And, you know, if you decide to join the program, I think you're going to find it interesting, you're going to find it challenging. In the end, you're going to find it rewarding. All right? Thank you.
Thanks, man. Thanks, Cedric. Sorry, I keep moving over. So we also have a bunch of people with us that are who we call our clinical partners. So they're part of the program, and you see those guys when you're out on clinical placement. And they help you sort of find your place in your career and mentor you. And they're excellent mentors. Can you guys just stand up for a sec? See, they're among you. You didn't even know. Thanks. So all of those faces you're going to see in, thank you, Town Square AB. So before we're once we've finished here, we've taken questions, then we're going to go into the other room. You can ask lots of specific questions of these guys. And I recommend, you know, ask all those hard questions like, really? Blood and body fluids? What are we talking about here? The answer is anything and everything. But really, talk to them about it. See what it's really going to be like for you. So we're happy to have them here, and so are you. Who else do we have here? Program advising. You guys all have questions like, okay, that's great. I know how application works. I know how the program works. But what about me? How does it work for me personally? This is my situation. That's where program advising comes in. I don't know Jesse, but he seems like a nice guy. We can't be in the shot together because it's not going to work. So I'll leave. He's part of a team of very nice, committed people who help give you a smooth experience at BCIT and help you do your best. Thank you, Jesse.
Thank you very much. So my name is Jesse Taylor. I work in the program advising department with several of my colleagues, one of which is here tonight. Meninder's here trying to field comments from the online community who have logged in tonight. But I'd like to pop to the next slide if I can here. Oh, I might have a login screen here. Just hit cancel. Brilliant. There we go. So in our department, we're going to talk to you about the requirements for entry. We're going to talk to you about strategies to how to approach a competitive program, as well as some of the simpler things if you're having troubles finding the tuition fees that are listed on the website, how to go about the application process if you're looking at meeting the requirements through midterm grades or assessment testing, if you need to do upgrading and what the time frame is going to be necessary to proceed with that. So there's a number of different things that we're going to talk to you about, either in our office directly, by email, or by phone. And so I want to make sure that you have the means to reach out to us, and we'll come to a point where I'll mention some of our services specifically. When we're talking about the entrance requirements for this program, we do need to see the specifics of equivalency of English 12, pre-calculus 12, it'll be biology 12, chemistry 12, and then physics 11. And a number of these are going to be required within the last 5 years. So we need to make sure that you've proven that recency. And again, that could be through assessment testing, or in some cases you might be having to do an upgrading class or refreshing the specific studies that you previously completed. And so we've got the application process that runs until June 1st. And so you want to make sure you have that deadline in mind so that you have everything sorted out by that time frame. I'm sorry, I keep moving around as well. I'll try and stay still. And so I've mentioned already proving the requirements, and we do have some details on the website. You'll see a link below the requirements that says read more about how to meet these requirements, and there'll be some details about how you proceed with midterm grades, what options are available for assessment testing. And so these are all important things that you can take a look at on the website or reach out to us if you've got specific questions, and we'll do our best to try and help you navigate through that or come to the conclusion that you need to resolve the issue. Document submission, as it's explained on the website, will usually be, it's an online application process, and so you do need to scan and upload your documents. So we'll have you scan your transcripts and anything else that you need to provide to the admissions department for the initial review. This has already been mentioned, the actual the time frame of the application process, but I'll quickly bring it up again here. So you guys are going to go through the application process up until June 1st, and then the department's going to go through the process of selecting candidates for the next step, which would be the interview process. And so ideally you want to make sure that you've put in all your effort to put the best application forward so that you can be one of the stronger candidates to be selected for that process. There's a number of other departments on campus as well that are really important to keep in mind. People like the financial aid office. In some cases, people need to seek out assistance through disability resources. There's as well a lot of services that you're going to look into getting help from while you're on campus. So the library is one of the areas where they do peer tutoring. You'd also want to make sure that you're taking time to take a break from the actual studies that you're involved in, and get out there and get involved with rec services, join some student groups through the student association, go out and see the health services if need be on campus. So there's a number of different areas that are really important outside of the academics for you to explore. As well, there's opportunities before you start the program to reach out to the program area and see about arranging a spend a day on campus, or do a tour if you've not necessarily determined that this is the absolute program that you want to get involved in. Maybe you're going to do a tour that involves MedLab and a couple of the other health science programs. As well as you can look into some of the other details specific to BCIT or the programs through some of the social media sites, YouTube and Twitter, Facebook and Flickr. So. And of course, to reach out to us in our office, I want to make sure I mention that these services that are outlined here are specific to a timeline that's actually starting February 1st. So our current services aren't reflected here on this slide. Right now, we're actually seeing students on Monday afternoons in the office, as well as Tuesday and Thursday mornings. And then we're taking phone calls on Monday morning. I do have some sheets that do reflect this for anybody that's here in person, so I'll hand those out to you. But Monday mornings, Tuesday mornings, and Thursday mornings presently. No, that sounds wrong. That'll be presently. Monday and Wednesday, that's right. Yeah, so the future will be Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. But presently it's just Mondays and Wednesdays. And of course, reach out to us by email or check on our website to be certain of the specific service periods that are outlined there. Oh. And, whoops. With that, I believe we've come to the questions period. Almost. Oh, okay.
Almost. Hang out with me for a bit, though. I'm glad that you mentioned the other student services and everything that's available to you here at BC. It really is a fantastic school. There's lots of things here to support you and help you through. MedLab, in particular, has a killer dodgeball team. Serious, for real. They used to call themselves the Medicine Ballers, but now they are the Hemoglobetrotters. So you've got that to look forward to. Yeah, so I think here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take some questions. We can take questions from in here. You might have questions for Jesse. You might have questions.